Just like the new Sony XB32, the Sony XB22 has gone through a design refresh for summer 2019. But unfortunately, just like the Sony XB32, there isn't really much new on the Sony XB22 that's going to want to make you upgrade from the Sony XB21. Now personally, I do think the Sony XB22 looks better than the Sony XB21. But other than that, Sony, we wish you would have done more. The Sony XB22 is Sony's latest small-size portable Bluetooth speaker that retails for $100, and it's going up against the likes of the JBL Flip 4 and the soon-to-be-released JBL Flip 5. But now, since the XB22 is out, the Sony XB21 is now typically on sale for $75. So if you want to pick any of the speakers up mentioned in this video, those will be linked down below. So, like I mentioned earlier, I personally like how the new Sony XB22 looks. Like I've mentioned in the past, to me the XB21 looks like a stretched out baseball. And also, quick note, the LEDs on the XB22 are much brighter than the XB21's. But like I mentioned in my Sony XB32 video, I think Sony going back to a mostly soft touch body is a mistake because the XB22 just isn't going to be as rugged as the XB21, which has an all fabric covered body. Now, even though the XB22 has the same IP67 rating as the XB21, which means it's both water and dust proof, due to its soft touch plastic body, it's going to get scratched very easily, and there's also going to be some watermarks that just don't come out. Now, I know some people might not care about wear and tear, but I think overall durability is something you should take into consideration when looking into a portable Bluetooth speaker. But besides looks, everything else under the hood of the XB22 is basically the same as the XB21. Just like the XB21, the XB22 has an advertised battery life of 12 hours. But realistically, with the light feature and extra bass mode turned on, and with the volume set at 80%, we're looking at a real-world battery life of 6 hours. But just like all other Sony speakers, the XB22 does this thing where if its battery gets down to 20%, it's going to abruptly stop your music, say please charge, and then won't let you raise the volume past 50% until you put it back on the charger. Personally, I find this to be incredibly annoying, and to my knowledge, there's no way to turn it off. But to charge the XB22, just like the XB21, it charges via a micro USB port. Personally, I wish the speaker had been upgraded to USB-C, because if you were an Android user, you'd be able to charge your phone and speaker with the same cable. But for now, we're stuck with micro USB. But when it comes to Bluetooth connectivity, there are some very important things that I think you might want to know about the XB22. Now, just like the XB21, the XB22 is using Bluetooth 4.2, and so is the new Sony XB32. Now, all of their wireless connections are stable and they have no problems going through multiple walls. But when it comes to their wireless range, all of these speakers have an advertised range of 30 feet. And in my testing, I found the Sony XB32 was a hard stop at 30 feet. But both the Sony XB22 and XB21 were able to go as far as 100 feet, if not more. Now, I know wireless range might not be a huge deal for some people, but I do think it's something you might want to take into consideration when you're looking into getting a portable Bluetooth speaker that you might want to use at the basketball court or in your backyard. And in this case, if you're looking for range, the Sony XB22 or XB21 aren't going to disappoint. But also, if you're an Android user, you're going to get extra benefits from your XB22, like NFC pairing and LDAC support, but more importantly, you're going to notice that there's going to be zero latency across the board whenever you're watching videos. Whereas if you're an iPhone user, you're going to notice there's going to be a lot of latency whenever you're watching YouTube videos, and there's going to be a slight latency whenever you're watching Netflix. So in short, Sony speakers do work a little better with Android devices. But when it comes to speaker setups, just like the XB21, the XB22 has dual front-mode firing 42mm diameter transducers and dual passive radiators that shoot out the front and out the back of the speaker. And for comparison, the JBL Flip 4 has dual 40mm diameter frontward firing transducers and dual passive radiators that shoot out its sides. Now, we're about to jump into a sound test. All of these speakers are playing at the same loudness, and both the XB22 and XB21 are playing with extra bass mode turned on, which is Sony's default EQ setting for all of its extra bass speakers.
But I don't know why you hit the road, but you don't realize I won't look back when you're around. I won't think twice when you're gone. Don't hesitate to call me back, 'cause I won't be there. I won't look back when you're around.
Now, I will give credit where credit is due. Sony has clearly taken steps to improve how their new extra bass speakers sound with extra bass mode turned on. In the past, many people have complained that Sony's XB21, XB31, and XB41 speakers tended to sound muffled, specifically the vocals. But extra bass modes on the XB22 and XB32 sound much clearer this time around. And after getting to spend some time with the XB22, I actually prefer how it sounds compared to the JBL Flip 4. I think the XB22 sounds a little fuller. But the thing about Sony speakers is that through their app, you can easily go in and change their EQ. So if you were to manually raise the mids and highs on the XB21, then you're going to get the same sound out of it as the XB22. But when it comes to max volume, I gotta say, all three of these speakers are evenly matched. But finally, we gotta talk about wireless party chain on these speakers. Sony allows you to pair up to 100 Sony speakers together so they can all play in sync. And the Sony XB22 can pair up to larger speakers like the Sony XB41 and older speakers like the Sony XB20. But from my experience, Sony's wireless party chain isn't the easiest to use speaker pairing protocol out there. First, you gotta press the WPC button on all of your speakers, then you gotta go into your phone, open up the Music Center app, and press the wireless party chain tab. Most of the time, the speakers will pair up, but sometimes you'll get an error message saying that there was a connection failure. Sometimes not all of the speakers that you intended to pair up actually get paired, or sometimes the wireless party chain tab just doesn't show up. And in some cases, speakers will fall out of sync when you're playing music, causing an echo effect, which you can only get rid of by turning off all of the speakers and pairing them back up again. Personally, Sony's wireless party chain falls very low on my list because in comparison with JBL speakers, all you gotta do is press one button on each speakers and they'll figure out the rest by themselves. You don't gotta open up any other apps and the speakers never fall out of sync. And for those wondering, no, even though the XB22 and XB21 are basically the same speakers, they can't be paired up to play in left and right stereo mode. So overall, with all that being said, I would only recommend picking up a Sony speaker if you only want one speaker. But instead of picking up the Sony XB22, if you have a $100 budget, then I recommend you get yourself the Sony XB31 because you'll get more bang for your buck, or get yourself the XB21 and save yourself some money. But if you plan on getting more speakers in the future and pairing them together on a regular basis, then I highly advise you invest into JBL's ecosystem. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit that like button and get subscribed. It helps out more than you realize. If you want to pick any of the products up mentioned in this video, those will be linked in the description down below, and you can also support the channel by checking out the merch store. But other than that, I'll catch you next time.